Welcome to the Daniela Baumann Show. Today we are joined by the amazing ERIC EDMEADES, founder and CEO of WildFit. ERIC is an expert in health, nutrition and personal growth, and he's helped so many people transform their lives by rethinking food and self-care. We'll be talking about health, self-care, diet, of course, a little bit relationships and how to live longer. Get ready for a conversation that will inspire and empower you to live a healthier and happier life. Welcome, ERIC. Wow, I'm so excited to have you here in Dubai.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. It's special.
Wow, how you like Dubai?
I love it. Every time I've come here, I've become more and more comfortable and almost feel like coming home a little bit. It's a fun place.
Wow, I feel the same, and I love the energy. And I'm really, really honored that you'll be here today, that we can talk and share some wisdom with our audience. ERIC, can you share your personal journey that led you to create WildFit and focus on health and nutrition?
Yeah, it really came about because I realized that no one else would ever care as much about my health as I would. Mm-hmm. And the reason I found that was that in my late teens and early 20s, I was always very sick, and I had serious throat infections, sinus infections, digestive problems, cystic acne. And of course, I was going to visit many doctors and specialists to try to find solutions, but there was never a solution. There was sometimes there was a medication that could help a little bit with this problem or that problem, but it didn't solve the problem. And finally, one of my doctors was recommending that I had a tonsillectomy to remove my tonsils because the throat infections were so serious. Oh, yeah. And about 6 weeks before the surgery, I went to a business seminar. That's what I thought I was going to. And it was a Tony Robbins seminar. Wow. And on the last day of the seminar, Tony Robbins started speaking about food. And I was like, why are you talking about food? Like, we're here for communication and business.
Not for food.
But the things he said stuck with me, you know, and I came home from that very curious, and I decided to do some reading and some thinking, and then I decided to do a bit of an experiment, and for 30 days, I just changed what I was eating. I added some things that I didn't usually eat. I took away some things that I used to eat too much.
Did you get a plan or something?
No, I just...
Or you created by yourself?
Well, I was inspired by many of the ideas that Tony had shared, and then I'd done a bunch of reading afterward, and I kind of just decided to try something. And so, I did some obvious things that today are obvious that weren't so obvious maybe in 1991 when I did this. But, processed food, refined sugar, dairy products and things like that. But 30 days later, I had lost 35 pounds. Wow. And my entire body changed. All of my symptoms went away. The acne I was suffering with completely went away. The sinus infections are gone. The throat infections are gone. My digestion was working perfectly. I was out of pain. And I went to the doctor's office because I had a checkup coming for the surgery. And I told them I didn't think I needed the surgery anymore. And they were like, no, but the pain will come back.
You have to do it. Plan everything.
It really felt like having a conversation with a unethical used car salesman, who was just trying to make a sale. Like, it didn't feel like people who cared about me. And also, you have to think, like, I changed so much that I flew to go visit my mom around this time. She didn't recognize me. In the airport, she didn't recognize me. My face shape had changed. My body had changed. When I walked into the doctor's office, they didn't notice that. And they didn't notice that my measurements had changed. I'd lost 35 pounds. They didn't notice that my acne was gone. They didn't notice that they were not curious for 1 second why my health was so much better than only a few months before.
I can't believe this.
And
they are not interesting.
No, many are now, but many still are not. Yeah. And I asked the doctor. I said, it was a bit of a cheeky question, but I asked him how long he'd gone to medical school, and he told me 6 years. And then I asked him, in the 6 years of medical school, how much of that time was devoted to the study of nutrition, food, and what have you? And he said none. And I mean, these days I tell people this and they're like, yeah, they all know. In 1991, we didn't know this. Like, it was a stunning revelation. I was none. And honestly, at first, I felt that probably he was the one doctor who somehow managed to scooch his way through and somehow still managed to pass, even though he skipped nutrition. But now it turns out that it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement in North America. It's not a requirement in Europe. You do not have to study food to become a doctor. Well, if they're not going to study it, then somebody better. And that's what sort of started me. I realized, I really felt, and this is a silly metaphor, but I felt like I was on a plane and I was talking to the pilot, and I found out that the pilot didn't have to learn how to land a plane. You know, so,
oh my God.
Well, if you're not going to learn how to land the plane, I'm going to learn how to land the plane. And so that's when I started my fascination with nutrition, and which combined with my other big curiosity, which was human history and evolution. My great-grandfather had found the oldest Homo sapien skull at that stage. And so I was really interested in evolution and human history. And now I became interested in nutrition. And of course, eventually I realized that they were related to each other. And all of that led to me writing an article back in about 1995 or 96 or so that was called The Human Diet. And it was basically putting forward an idea that as different as we all are, we're more alike than we're different. And there are core dietary principles for us. And then some years later, I had tried coaching some people with health, and I found that it's not very easy. You know,
they don't believe?
Or what it's not that they don't believe, it's that they won't stick with it.
Okay.
You know, I read this big study, and it turns out that the average person in the developed world will go on 2 diets a year for their whole life. And they will stick with each one for 6 or 7 days. And they will gain roughly 3 pounds every time they do it. Wow. So the diet industry just clearly doesn't work. And not only does it not work, but I would suggest that it's damaging. It's damaging to self-esteem. It's damaging to metabolism. It's damaging. And so I came to this point where some of my clients were asking me for, like, what can I do? How can I make things better? And I was like, well, I tell people what to do and then they don't do it. But then I started thinking about my business mentorship practice. I was doing a lot of business coaching and teaching at that point all over the world. And I thought, well, if I applied the same principles, maybe I could solve this problem. And so I developed the very first WildFit program, which was a 90-day coaching program based on psychological exercises and incremental changes. And it just took off. Like
I remember when I hear it for the first time, and everyone was talking about it. Yeah. This was so successful.
It just worked. I mean, the first 8 clients got phenomenal results. The next 8, and then one day I had a class with 200 people in it, one class. Wow. And then I had another class with 1,100 people in it because of Mind Valley. And it was just, and mostly, I mean, I didn't run it like a business. I started it as a hobby. I was a business teacher.
Yes. But you love to help people. You don't think about, I make a business out of this. I love to help, to open the eyes.
And then it turned into a business. And at this point, we've now had, you know, well more than 100,000 people around the world go through the program in 100 countries around the world. The program's available in 6 languages. We have 500 coaches around the world. It really has been, I mean, the Canadian government gave me a medal the Senate gave me a medal for the work that we've been doing, and now I've been invited to work with various government agencies, and it's been maybe one of the most professionally rewarding things I've ever undertaken.
Congratulations. That's so amazing. You know, when I think back, I was born 1966, and my parents, they eat so bad, you know, every day, the meat, the sauce, a lot of sauce with cream. And I was eating at this time I remember only chocolate, so bad. And Nutella with bread, warm baguette with Nutella on it. And my mother tried to put me on the table, and I said, no, I eat already. And when I look back, I was saying, oh my God, I do so many bad things to my body. But I realized this today. And my parents, they're not here anymore. I feel so sorry about them, but they eat their whole life really bad. They don't think about, and the industry, there was no industry. When you are becoming sick, you're running to a doctor and they give you the medicaments, but nobody was telling you, you eat bad. Nobody was asking.
Yeah.
And this was my experience in a young age.
Yeah. It's very difficult because the food industry is governed by itself.
Yeah.
And so, you know, even now, many times, I would say that many nutritionists have their heart in the right place and they want to be doing really good work. The challenge is that for many of them, their education was sponsored by the food industry.
Yeah.
So they've really just become salespeople for the food industry. And the best example of that would be even the food pyramid. Like when Louise Light created the original food pyramid, she created a very solid nutritional pyramid that gave us a good sense of priority on food. And then they handed it to the food industry to see how they felt about it. And 10 years later, or I think it was more, they turned it upside down. And she even said, this is in the 70s, she said, if you publish this, you will cause widespread diabetes and obesity all over the planet. And of course, you know, here we are 40 years later, and that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Yes, the industry. Yes. My next question, starting with healthcare, Eric, we know it's really a hot topic right now. What do you see, what we speak about before, what do you see as the biggest challenges our healthcare system face today and how we can address them?
Wow, this is an unpopular answer, but capitalism. Capitalism is the biggest problem in the food and healthcare industry. And I'm a capitalist, so you know, I don't believe there's a better system generally for a population to exchange value with each other yet. But the trouble is that if you think of a food manufacturer in a capitalistic world, their job is to increase sales and reduce costs and increase profit margin.
Of course.
And so when you begin to recognize that they're going to do the same things that every other company does. So for example, if you're IKEA, right, what are you going to do? You want to increase sales. How are you going to do that? You're going to make the best product that you can. You're going to make people want to come and buy again and again. Yeah. You're going to do everything you can to get them to buy again. Food companies are doing the same thing. But the problem is that you only need so much food. So the only way that we can make you buy again and again is to make you eat more than you need. It's the only way we can do it. So what is good when IKEA does it is bad when the food company does it. Then IKEA, like any other company, is going to do what they can to reduce their costs, to keep their costs down so they can have a better profit margin. Well, so what does that mean? It means when you buy a desk that you put together from IKEA, it's not made from oak. It's made from, you know, what do they call that stuff? The fake wood. And so it's not the highest quality in the world. We all know that.
Yes.
And we choose that if we want to buy from IKEA. We're not ashamed of it. But if we take that same principle with food, when we take the food and lower the quality of it, that's what we're putting in our body. And so now we're lowering the value of the food that we're putting into our body. So, you know, we're eating more of it and it's less nutritionally valuable and the food company gets to make a profit in the middle. That's devastating. And then it leads to even worse practices like putting addictive substances in the food so that you don't have the freedom not to eat it. Or putting extra sugar in the food because sugar stimulates your appetite. The more sugar you eat, the more sugar you crave. All of these ways to make more money. And then add to it the next problem, and that is that the pharmaceutical industry is on the same game.
Yeah.
You know,
I think this is the biggest problem.
It's a big thing.
They want that you become sick.
Yeah.
They won't make money out of this. They want that you go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And the doctor also need to make money out of this. Otherwise,
yeah, and I don't think it's that you've got this one evil genius at the pharmaceutical company that's, but it's just a matter of that's what the shareholders are asking for. As a good example, I was reading recently that the FDA in America has recently approved an eye drop. Okay. And the way the eye drop works is, you know how many people, when if they didn't need glasses before, when they get to 40 or 45 years old, 50 years old, their lens starts getting a bit stiff, and so they start needing reading glasses. But apparently this drop, you drop it in your eye, and for the rest of that day, you don't need to wear your reading glasses. You can see quite clearly. Now, as somebody who, you know, around about 50, I started, oh my gosh, I need more light to read the menu. I was in this restaurant and I'm putting the light on the menu, and my friend says, Eric, it's not dark in here. And I go, yeah, I just need a little light on the menu. And he goes, no, you need some help. And I go, what do you mean? And he handed me his reading glasses.
No way.
And I put them on and I looked at the menu and, oh, I'm blind. It's like, what's happening to me? You know, but the thing is, apparently now with this new eye drop, you drop one drop in, the lens softens and you can see for the rest of the day without your glasses. Sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Yes.
My question is, how much research did they put into making it a daily drop instead of a weekly drop or a monthly drop or a single treatment? Because you see, as a single treatment, how much could they charge for that? people might pay 5, 6, 7,000 for a single treatment to fix the problem, but wouldn't you rather charge them $8 a day for the rest of their life? And so the trouble is that the pharmaceutical industry, it's not, again, I'm not saying there's one evil person, maybe there is, but what I am suggesting is that there's a system that rewards bad behavior.
Of course. This is so interesting. All my friends have glasses. I'm 58. Last week I become 58 and I don't have a glass. No, I was thinking when it starts in the age of 40, 45, I was thinking, no, I don't need a glass. And also my friend, she was telling me, wear. And I really, in this moment when I wear her glass, it looks better. But later on, 5 years later, she can recognize me without a glass. And I was really shocked.
Yeah.
Her eyes getting really bad with wearing all the time these glasses, and my eyes are still sometimes, of course, in a restaurant, I need a light, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to resist them as long as you can. The truth is, I've noticed when I'm kiteboarding, and I used to kiteboard a lot, and these days I've been traveling a lot, and I have kids, so it's a little bit more complicated. But when I'm kiteboarding, when you're kiteboarding, you're looking at the water, you're looking at the bar, you're looking at the kite, you're looking at the horizon, and you're moving your eyes a lot. And I've noticed that if I'm kiting for a few days, then my eyes are much better. And I think one of the reasons that our eyes get like that is that we are so looking at one thing.
Yes.
You know, we spend our lives inside boxes. We're inside the box of the house, the box of the office, the box of the TV. And so our eyes aren't getting the focal range that we really need. And I think that when people spend more time outside, natural sunlight, good focal range, then they can keep their eyesight intact a lot longer.
Yes. I invite you to e-foil.
I've done it. We were on Necker Island a couple of weeks ago, and one day we got this I was kiteboarding. It was really cool. I got to go kiteboarding with Richard Branson, which was a real treat. And then they were like, "Oh, do you want to go e-foiling?" And I'd never done that, and there was a lot of falling.
There was a lot of falling. You are used to it, and you fall down many times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, see, I kite on a twin tip board. I don't kite on a foil.
Okay,
so I'd never been up on the foil before. But by that, after about an hour, I was riding on the foil. It was a lot of fun. Amazing. But you know what was even better? The sea bob.
Yeah,
sea bob. It's an underwater jet ski.
Wow.
So you're holding on to this little miniature jet ski thing, and you pull the trigger and it pulls you forward, and then you dive it and down you go. And I free dive, so I can hold my breath for like two minutes or so underwater.
Amazing.
So you're flying along. That's even better than e-foiling.
Wow. I'm scary. I think I can hold my breath like 1 minute, not longer. And I think I get scary. But when you want, we invite you. We love it. It's so beautiful. Go forward with our next topic. Self-care is increasingly recognized as essential for our overall well-being. In your own life, how do you incorporate self-care into your daily routine, and what tips do you have for those looking to prioritize it?
I think one of the things we have to be careful of in this world of self-care at the moment is that, particularly when you think of, like, say, Instagram influencing and biohacking and all this kind of things, these days, many things are being sold on fear. You're being told one day that the sun is incredibly dangerous, and so now you have to put this cream on your face. And then you're told another day that all of the soil has no nutrition, and now you have to take 400 pills, to take your supplements and so forth. And I'm not saying that supplements don't have a place. I'm just saying that we're being sold very many things based on fear. So there's one principle that governs all of self-care, I think, that everyone should consider when they're making these choices. And the principle is something I've written about in my book, The Evolution Gap. The principle is that our genetics evolved for a very natural lifestyle in the wilderness. We evolved for natural sun exposure. We evolved for fresh air. We evolved for certain seasonal diets. We evolved for a certain amount of movement. Our bodies operate best when we are in the environment that our bodies evolved for. So many of the problems that we have today are that we removed ourselves from nature and put ourselves in civilization. And we did it very slowly. Like, it's not something that happened quickly. It happened very slowly. It starts with a little bit of agriculture, and then it turns into industrial agriculture, then the industrial age, and next thing you know, you can go to a gym and take an escalator to get to the gym. I mean, it's insane, right? So the principle that I think should govern all self-care considerations is this moving me closer to or mimicking natural life? And the more it is, the better. So here's a good example.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently the sun in 1962 suddenly became dangerous. Wait a second. It only became dangerous for humans. It didn't become dangerous for all the trees that are still under that same sun.
Interesting.
It didn't become dangerous for the elephants, for the hippos. They don't have any hair. I mean, they have a little bit of hair, but it didn't become dangerous for them. It only became dangerous for human beings.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about that.
Wow.
And by the way, human beings are the only ones that can understand the sunblock advertisements. You don't see elephants watching, oh, I better put some sunblock on, right? So suddenly we're being sold sunblock to protect and by the way, your skin is absorbing things. Yeah. So now we're putting a bunch of disastrous chemicals on our skin to protect us from the sun. Instead, what I would suggest is that we should try to have as natural a relationship with the sun as we could. So this is a little bit complicated, but I can see looking at you, your skin tone, hair tone, eye tone, that you come from, sort of southern to middle Europe, genetically speaking. If we look at my girlfriend, she comes from just south of the North Pole. Translucent skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, right? Why? Because wherever you lived, your ancestors, you evolved the right skin to let the right amount of sun in.
Oh, wow, interesting.
So if you're from Norway, where there wasn't much sun at all, if you're from Estonia, where there's not much sun at all, then you evolved to live in a place with not much sun. So your skin is very light to let the sun in because the sun's important. But if you move, like Kirsty, you move from Estonia to the Dominican Republic, you need to be a bit more careful about the sun. But equally, if you move from Nigeria to Estonia, you need to do everything possible to get enough sun. And so the idea here is in your self-care regime is you should be trying to mimic as closely as possible our natural relationship with the environment.
Wow, amazing. I didn't realize this. What you say before, that is important where you was born. And that you are used to it. But some people, what you say is very interesting. They came also here to Dubai and they have a very white skin. Yeah. And then you see them after 1 or 2 hours, they are red.
That's right.
And this is very interesting.
Nobody should ever burn. Yeah. Like, it's not that the sun became dangerous. And I'm really clear about this, is that, the concept of the evolution gap, first of all, acknowledges evolution. We evolved the right skin color, the right eye color, and the right hair color for where we were on the planet relative to the sun. So if you live equatorially, if your ancestors are from the equatorial areas, you are so dark. You're so dark. As soon as you start to move north or south away from the equator, the skin gets lighter and lighter. The people in the most southern parts of South Africa have very, very light skin. And the people in the northern parts of Europe, even lighter because of the tilt of the earth. The problem isn't that the sun suddenly became dangerous. The problem is that we invented air travel and we invented the ability to move to places on the planet that are not the right sun level for us. Wow. And it's equally dangerous in both directions. If you move to here in Dubai and you're from Norway and you're getting yourself burnt, that's bad. But equally, if you're from Nigeria and you move to Estonia, your kids are likely going to develop rickets. You're not getting enough sun. So we want to duplicate that as best possible. Another great example is about exercise. Everybody thinks like, I have to go exercise because I need my cardiovascular fitness and I need my muscle density and I got to go exercise. There's another thing most people have never thought about, and that is that your cardiovascular system, you've got a diaphragm that pumps the air in and out. You've got the heart that pumps the blood around you because moving blood around your system is imperative. It's urgent. I mean, your brain can only live a few minutes without air. You have to pump that around. The lymphatic system, which is also a very important system, but not an urgent system, never evolved a pump. Your lymphatic system is producing lymph, and then that lymph needs to flow around your body to cleanse you from the inside, but it doesn't have a pump because, well, in nature, we had to move And the way lymph moves is because your muscles are moving.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you're in nature, you would normally have to walk 10 or 15 or 20 miles a day, every day.
Wow.
And you'd have to lift things and climb. And so you're constantly moving lymph around your body. Today, people are watching Netflix.
Yes.
They're sitting in cars and they're not moving lymph around their body. So again, from a self-care perspective, I don't care if you want to run a marathon or you want to be fit. I care that you move lymph around your body. And the best way to do that is to duplicate natural movements.
Wow, it's so important. I do a sport, I think, the whole life, In a young age, I started with dancing. Later, I came to the fitness industry. And sometimes I'm thinking about, I can't believe that people don't do any sport. It's not only about the sport. It's not only about the body. It's also about the energy. When you don't do sport, when you lie in front of Netflix every day, and I know a lot of people after work, they're looking Netflix for hours. Your body get lazy, your body get old, you don't have energy anymore. And that's why it's so important.
Yeah.
To go back to the food, our food choices go behind just physical health. They can also affect how we feel emotionally. How do you believe our dietary habits impact our mental and emotional well-being?
This is a very, very important point. Within about 4 years of WildFit, maybe in the 5th year, we started noticing some interesting patterns that our clients were reporting. For example, we started getting a lot of clients telling us that they had reversed their diabetes. And we never started the program with that in mind, but it was working. And of course, many people were losing weight, and many people were finding that their sex drive was back, and many people were developing fertility. Like they were like, we'd given up having a baby and then we got pregnant. But one of the most interesting things that we were getting from people was that they were happy, that their depression was over, and that they were coming off. In fact, it became so common for people to tell us they were coming off their anti-anxiety medications, their antidepressant medications, that we have to put a warning in the program that says, please don't come off your medication without talking to your doctor. Because people started feeling so good, they just wanted to stop taking the medication. And that's quite dangerous with antidepressants.
Yes,
So now there's a few things that are important to understand about this. The first thing is how we discovered is we created a live poll, just asking people what were the benefits that you got from going on the program. And the third highest benefit, it was amazing. The third highest benefit was increased sense of well-being, which was subdivided into my depression's over, my anxiety's over, and all that kind of stuff. So what we found is that when people are putting in more of the good stuff, less of the bad stuff, and they have a metabolic cycle, they're running metabolic cycles, that immediately their moods change, their emotional balance changes. And that's massive because, weirdly, now when your emotions improve and your emotional state of mind improves, it becomes easier to make good food decisions. Of course, yeah. Now you have a positive feedback loop. You make some good food decisions, you start to feel emotionally better, and it gets easier to stay with your good food decisions. And that creates a really positive upcycle.
That's amazing. But I feel the same. When I eat in the morning something very healthy, acai bowl, I love acai bowl, and it's totally different. And some other morning I eat, sometimes I need my toast, I need my Nutella one time, maybe 1 or twice in a week. But I feel right away, I feel tired. Yeah. I think food or what you choose is so important. But I have another question. What about alcohol? Alcohol. It's also a society problem today, alcohol. Did you say the best thing is no alcohol to avoid them totally? Or did you say, okay, 1 glass in a week? Now it's a lot of discussion about it. People say, no alcohol, it's better for your brain. And other people say, yeah, come on, 1 glass. Okay,
let's get really clear. Over the years, there's every now and again been some study that says, alcohol is good for you and it reduces your chance of a heart attack. Well, the only reason for that is that your blood is so clogged up by the rest of your diet that apparently alcohol thins it. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea. We are really clear at this point. There is nothing good health-wise about alcohol. Nothing. That's fine. Now, that doesn't mean you should never have it, but we shouldn't lie to ourselves. We shouldn't drink it and go, well, I'm drinking something that's good for me. No, you're not. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this. I have not had alcohol since I was 19 years old. I have not had alcohol. Well, okay, that's not totally true. Twice by accident.
Wow.
I was on a plane once. I was on a United Airlines plane, and I had to catch a connection, and it was a very tight connection. So I'm running through the airport, dry air, and I'm running and I'm sweating, and I get to the plane and I'm so thirsty, and I'm in business class, and the woman says to me, would you like a drink? And I go, oh, please, I would like a sparkling water, please. Mm-hmm. So she brings me my sparkling water, and I am so dry, and I'm like, I'm so thirsty. And I just drink the whole thing down. Then my chest is on fire. Like, what the heck? What is going on? And I go, excuse me, ma'am, what did you just serve me? I served you a double gin and tonic.
No
I was
way.
Like, holy, and
wow.
Boy, it went to my head really quickly.
Wow.
But it's an accident. I've not had alcohol intentionally for 35 years or something. Now, that doesn't mean that I think nobody should ever have it. I mean, my girlfriend drinks Prosecco, and the other day we checked into the W Hotel, and the W Hotel, we've got our membership, and they go, what special gift would you like? And I know her very well. And so I got her, what did I get? Sauvignon? I got her a nice white wine.
Wow.
She likes those things from time to time. And I think that it's like anything. I mean, some people are going to try and tell you that chocolate's good for you. Like, no. I mean, okay, maybe.
Black chocolate, as the dark chocolate.
Maybe cacao has some antioxidant benefit, but chocolate isn't good. You don't need chocolate. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have it. And I would say the same with alcohol. I think that if you can have a responsible occasional relationship with alcohol, then that's your choice. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we should lie to ourselves and pretend it's good for us.
Yes. And then it's true. Audience, stop alcohol. Or maybe New Year.
I'll say one thing.
New Year's Eve.
No, don't change anything on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is the worst day to try to change things because we all have accepted that it doesn't work. So it's not a good idea. I'll say this about alcohol. I'll ask you a question. What do you think would be better? Moderation, 1 glass every night, or 6 glasses on a Saturday night?
Both?
Which would be a better option?
No, I think both is really bad. It doesn't change.
I would say that I would rather, if one of my children came to me and said, I'm going to have 1 glass every night, or I'm going to get drunk on Saturday, I'd say get drunk on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Because then your body, your liver has the rest of the week to heal. Oh, it has the rest of the week to cleanse and recover. Yeah. If you do it every day, you're spiking your blood sugar every day. You're putting the toxin in every single day. Mm-hmm. So I would rather say, look, if you want to go out one night and get a little bit tipsy, go for it. But these people that are going home and having a glass or 2 every night to settle their nerves, that's the bigger problem, I think.
This is interesting. I never hear like this. I hear, of course, some people say, oh, I drink only on the weekend and it's okay. But no alcohol. It's better. It's also damage the brain. Is this true?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously lots of different studies that talk about different. This study says no, it doesn't damage the brain at all. Only that study was sponsored by an alcohol company, probably. Daniel Amen shows the brain scans that show the difference between alcohol drinking and not drinking, and it's interesting. Again, I would say that a rational, occasional relationship with alcohol is fine. It's okay to have it. I choose not to do that. I don't think it's optimal. But, I also don't think that I'm not really interested in interfering with other people's rights. And if they want to have an occasional relationship, I think it can be fun.
Yeah, but it's not easy. Support from friends and community can make a significant difference in achieving health goals. I think when you go out, sometimes, of course, your friends push you and say, you like to drink, or come on, let's drink a glass of wine. How you handle this in this moment? They are so excited, they are so happy. Then you say, no, I don't want to drink anything. How you can handle this?
We just published a video on my Instagram channel, and it starts like this. Your friends are drug dealers.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, they're not selling drugs, they're selling food, they're selling sugar. And they are. And I'm going to out 2 of my friends. I'm going to out Ken and Sandy. Ken and Sandy, are you listening to me? You guys are drug dealers. Like, we go out with Ken and Sandy. We get here to Dubai. And we get to Dubai, and they're like, okay, come and have dinner. We go have dinner. And then, of course, they know the restaurant very well. They know the manager. The manager takes very special care of us. Then the manager brings a huge plate of desserts. We don't generally eat much in the way of dessert. And then Ken and Sandy are like, oh, no, but you have to try it. It's amazing. This is the best rice pudding in the history of rice pudding. You have to try this. Then I don't try any of that. But then we go from there. We're walking through the Dubai Mall, and they stop in at this little shop. Do you remember what it's called? I can't think of the name of it, but they sell like Turkish delight and baklava and so on.
Batel restaurant.
Baklava
and all
what did I say?
Nice things.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And what's really great about that, I've spent quite a lot of time in Turkey, is that what's happened to baklava and to Turkish delight is it's been switched to sugar syrup. And but if you're very careful, you can find ones that are still made from honey. And at this shop in the Dubai Mall, they have a section where it's just the honey-made ones. So we go in there, and Ken and Sandy, the drug dealers, like, you have to try 2 of these, you have to try 2 of these, you have to try 2 of these. So I'm kidding about them being drug dealers, but we all have friends that are like that. Now, why are they doing that? In the case of Ken and Sandy, they're doing it because they want to give you pleasure.
Yeah,
they've tasted it, and they really want you to have this incredible experience. They're all about sharing joy with you, right?
Yes.
But there are other friends, and they're doing it because if you won't eat it, it makes them feel weak.
Oh.
They're like, well, if you don't have dessert, then I don't feel like I can have dessert, but I really want the dessert. So the only way I can have the dessert is if I make you weak too.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is many times people will say, well, I felt like I had to have it because my friends made it for me with love.
Yes.
You know, they thought about me. They bought it specially for me. Well, what's interesting is when we had the dinner the other night, they brought out this dessert and they brought out the rice pudding. I had none of it. Only I'm talking with Kirsty about it later, and she goes, it's all Ken and Sandy's fault. And I'm like, well, I didn't have it. I'm thinking maybe you enjoyed it. And she said, okay, yeah, maybe I did. And there's the secret, right? The secret is that when people say, oh, I only did it because my friends, yeah, but if they gave you something that you hated, you wouldn't have had it.
Of course.
You used your friend's generosity as an excuse. Which, by the way, when we went to the shop, now I did it too. Yes. They're bringing out the Turkish delight, the baklava. And I'm like, well, their friends made it with love. They want us to have it. What we have to do is take responsibility for ourselves.
Of course, to say no.
Yeah. And so there are a couple thoughts I have is that if you have friends that are pushing you to drink more than you should or to eat too much junk food, then I hate to say it, but either you need to figure out how to manage that relationship with those friends or not spend so much time with them.
Yes, you're so right.
It's unfortunate. And one thing I can tell you, as everybody heads into like holiday season, this is a very valuable idea. I'll tell you, this is great. If you say to your friends, oh, I really shouldn't, that is an invitation for them to convince you.
Okay.
If you offer me some dessert and I say, ooh, I really shouldn't, aren't I really saying to you, come on, convince me? You can convince. If I really shouldn't. I'm begging for you to convince me.
Of course.
Or if I say, oh, I'm really trying not to.
Oh,
even that is an invitation, right?
Of course, it's not that you say no. You say, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's the case of no means maybe when it comes to food. On the other hand, what I might say to you is I might say, let's say you make the best tiramisu in the world, and I know that we're coming over to your house for dinner. Then I would say to you, listen, I want you to know something. I am right now dealing with some sugar issues in my life, and I don't want to eat any sugar. So, and I know that you make the best tiramisu in the planet. So I'm asking you, if I come anywhere near your tiramisu, stop me.
Wow.
Now, you see what I've done is I've taken my friend and turned them into my health coach.
Yes.
If I say, ooh, I really shouldn't, I'm turning them into my fun coach, right? And so if you change your communication with your friends, I think you can change the results.
Wow, so interesting. Thank you so much for these amazing insights. About longevity, it's also a very interesting topic. As we think about longevity and living our best lives, what are the top habits or practice you would recommend for those wanting to expand their health and longevity?
This is such a hot topic these days. You have longevity experts.
Amazing. I hear it everywhere. Everyone is talking about it.
Yeah, and now there's this concept of longevity escape velocity, that maybe we're at the stage where we can live long enough that we end up living forever. And all these things are fascinating. But I would start with a very basic principle. And I'll use a silly metaphor. If you buy a car and you use the car the way, let's say you have the same car, you buy there's 3 of them. One of them, you use it exactly the way you were supposed to use it. You take it out for a nice drive every day, you do your grocery shopping, you come back. That's the one car. You run it through its normal maintenance, you change the oil if you have to, you charge the battery, whatever it is, you do the right things. Then you have another car and you never ever use it. And then you have another car and you use it badly. Which car is going to last the best? The one that you use properly, the one that you use never, or the one that you abuse? Well, clearly it's not the one you abuse, clearly.
Yeah.
But what about the one that you preserve and never use, or the one that you use? The one that you never use, the tires are going to go flat. The engine is going to seize up. It's going to die much more quickly than the one that you used properly. And people who collect old antiques, they know they have to take the car out for a drive every now and again. They got to move it. They got to circulate the lubricants. They got to use it. And a car is not a regenerative machine. It's a degenerative machine. It by nature ages in one direction only. Human bodies are regenerative. If you use it, it gets stronger. If you have impact, your muscles and your bones get stronger. If you lift heavy weights, your muscles get stronger, your bones get stronger. If you move blood around your system, you move lymph around your system. Using it is what makes it better, just like the car, only even more so. So in my opinion, if we use that same idea, we have three humans. We have the human that uses their body in relationship to the way the body was designed. We have the human that doesn't use their body. They sit on the couch and Netflix all the time. Or you have the human that abuses their body. Well, clearly the abuses the body is the worst situation, but the not using the body is just as bad.
Yes.
In other words, we have to use the body the way it was meant to be used. So that means moving your body in ancestral ways. It means eating foods that are ancestrally acceptable. It means running through ancestral seasonal cycles. We have three different metabolic functions, very clear metabolic modes. We can burn sugar, we can burn protein, and we can burn fat. The average person in the developed world will only ever burn sugar, and they will age faster as a result. If you instead run through these seasonal cycles, then you have a healthier metabolism and you're likely to live longer. And this includes things like fasting and sleeping properly and so on. So again, it's a bit like I mentioned earlier about the evolution gap. Recognizing that Homo sapiens evolved for a certain lifestyle. If you can duplicate that lifestyle as best possible, I believe you'll have the most optimal health.
Wow, I can talk for hours with you. Amazing. So interesting. And as we wrap up, if you could share one key piece of advice with our listener about their health journey, what would it be to inspire and motivate them from today?
I'll tell you what, we'll combine a little bit nutrition, health, and psychology.
Yeah.
Memory is a very interesting function in the human brain. We do not have perfect memories. What we have is the perfect memory for Homo sapiens. If I put this another way, there are animals that have better eyesight than us. But there are also animals, like eagles. They can see much better than we can. But we also have animals like the white rhino that can't barely see at all, or bats that, Then we have bats who can hear better than us, right? But then we have other animals. See, we evolved exactly the right eyesight for our survival. We evolved exactly the right hearing and the sense of smell. We can't smell like dogs. And frankly, I'm glad. I don't know if I'd want that level of smell. So we've done the same thing with memory. We've evolved exactly the right memory for our survival. And our memory appears to be anchored largely by emotional response. Yes. So if you have a very boring day, you probably don't remember it. But if you have a very bad day, you probably remember it. Yes. If you have a very good day, you probably remember it. What happens in our case now is that if somebody eats a bunch of sugar, they eat lots of calories, they have an emotional response. And the emotional response is designed for them to remember where they got the calories. Wow. So if you and I are walking along in the African bush and we stumble upon a tree and we eat all the berries 20,000 years ago, we get all this dopamine and we get all this serotonin and our mind goes, remember this tree. Remember the mood we were in that made us walk to this tree. It locks it in, and it's meant to be that way. Now, the trouble we have today is that same mechanism is incredibly dangerous because somebody goes to work and they have a bad day and they feel bad and they feel angry or depressed or anxious and they come home and what do? they have a glass of wine, maybe they eat some ice cream, they have some cookies.
Most common problem.
Then the problem is, and people think that those foods are helping them feel better. What's really happening is, first of all, they're only distracting themselves for a few moments. But the bigger problem is when they eat those foods, they get this rush of serotonin and dopamine, and the body goes, I need to remember how to get these calories. And the way to get these calories is by having a bad day. And the body learns very quickly that the path to ice cream is depression, or the path to chocolate is loneliness, or the path to wine is anger. And so now you're at 10 o'clock in the day, your body starts going, ooh, I remember where the fruit tree is, only it's not a fruit tree it's remembering. It's remembering the ice cream. It's saying, it's already deciding at 10 o'clock in the morning, I know how to get to the ice cream. The way I get to the ice cream is by making the body angry, or by making the body upset, and that will lead to that.
Oh, this is very interesting.
So one of the biggest hacks that people can do to change their entire life, if they're going to eat something that's not so functional, they want to have some alcohol, they want to have some ice cream, they want to eat that stuff, they should only ever reward the very best days. They should only ever do that. If you have a fantastic day, have the ice cream. But if you have the ice cream at the end of a very bad day, you are sentencing yourself to more bad days.
Wow, thank you so much for this advice. I think it's very important to think about before you do it.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here today, Eric. It was such a pleasure to be with you. And I think also for our audience, they had a lot of to do, to work now, no Netflix, a lot of sport. Think about why you do this, why you drink a glass now when you're not happy in life. And this is really a very amazing advice. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Daniela Baumann Show. I hope today's chat with ERIC EDMEADES inspire and motivate you. If you like this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with your friends and family. And remember, even small change can make a big difference. Stay healthy and see you next time. Bye.